Hi, I'm Khomal Dhall. I'm the leader of KPMG's Global Transfer Pricing Practice, and I'm here today with Karen Milhoua. I know we were talking a little bit earlier today, and it would be great if we could hear from you. Why do you come to the TP Minds conference?
Sure. So I find these conferences really valuable because as a practitioner in a company, I love to get the balanced views that some of the panelists have been pulling together, industry, government, and people in large companies. So we talk about a well-rounded perspective of the issues that people face across the spectrum. And I think it's a great balance. I find that gives me the best perspective because it addresses some of my own concerns. I learned about other concerns people are having that I hadn't thought about that might be an issue for me. So I just find it to be a really effective way to stay on top of things.
Sure. Now you were on a panel today as well, talking about, I guess in so many words, transparency.
Yep.
So country by country reporting, we all know it's 2018. It's becoming quite real for every company. And my hunch is that going through the process, companies took one perspective, but maybe in the following year, sort of coming on to what it really means, that there's a completely different perspective now in reflection.
Now that there's time to reflect, you mean, as opposed to like the effort to undertake it all, because it was a huge undertaking to really prepare for it in terms of making sure that you had enough time. We started with 2014 data to do dry runs to try and understand what the picture looked like, what the story was being told, and then 2015, and then obviously 2016. And so that effort took a lot of time from a lot of people, and it was very helpful to have a lot of different sets of eyes on the information so that you got different people caught different aspects of it. So
Right.
it was a learning exercise and making sure that it just wasn't a transfer pricing group's compliance obligation. It was really should be socialized throughout the tax department, and then maybe even to your local finance teams, depending on how you're structured and who does what in your company.
And what happened on your panel? Did you find that your experience was similar to that of your peers?
Yes, and I actually learned different approaches of how people in different companies and different industries tackle the problem. So I would say, broadly speaking, yeah, we all started early trying to get our arms around it. Some people focus more on communication to the business, the senior business executives, about what to expect, and did a lot of prep work with investor relations on, when and if this becomes public information. So a lot of that angle, as well as just the data gathering and how to make sure that you're looking at everything the right way, and that you're drilling down enough and unpacking all the stuff, because sometimes things get netted and lumped together, and you need to make sure you're pulling it all apart, and that takes a lot of time to get really well informed about how your accounting group books entries, et cetera. I mean, that detailed is really important.
I'm sure. What I found this year on the TP Minds agenda is it is framed slightly differently this year than I've seen in the past years. Well, one, we've got U.S. tax reform. That's definitely shaping the agenda. We're coming on to areas like digital, which is really coming out of the EU in terms of the EU Commission. But we also have formidable developments on a couple of areas. One is on the APA front and what that means right now, post-U.S. tax reform. Any thoughts about that you've heard while you've been at the conference?
I think there was some polling in the questions, and I think people found it interesting to hear about how APAs have evolved in the post-tax reform and BEPS landscape. And some companies are not doing anything yet, just going to wait and see how it all changes. Other companies are certain that their approach is the right one. So it's just, again, interesting to take a pulse across different industries of how people are reacting.
I think we all have a bet that controversy and some form of certainty is going to shape our future going forward. And I think for every company, they've got to kind of diagnose that in their own way.
Yeah.
The last thing I think that's really coming up is really sort of the back end of the OECD work has been the work on permanent establishments. Now, we had an interesting discussion today, and the panel, I think, brought up some interesting points about attribution to profit. Any thoughts?
So I thought that panel, again, raised the interesting points about the PE issues that people talk about. And at the very end, there was a comment that said, it's like the urban myth that all you need to worry about is your transfer pricing if you have a PE concern. And I thought, oh, that's very interesting because it's not that simple. And I think that really captured it. And so something to remember that, it's been around a long time, but it's
Right.
also, it's a combination of old guidance, new guidance, evolving business models, transparency is new. So I think all these dynamics are going to play into that. And I don't think there's a roadmap yet. I think people need to constantly evaluate and make sure that they're informed as to the guidance that's coming out and what people are finding.
Well put. Thanks.